Okay, so this is our group's presentation and talk through regarding the trolley problem, Kant's acts, Aristotle on flourishing, and just overall like moral debate for course project activity number 4. So let's see. So since there's different members, so I guess I can, through our discussion, I guess I can just like moderate throughout.
Okay.
So like, I don't know. It's just the two of us, but I can like talk through it and we can like go between different topics and stuff like that. And then team member number 2 that says your role is to represent the view of utilitarianism after reviewing the course lectures and reading, clarify the key assumptions and concepts of this moral theory and attempt to apply the theory to the trolley problem. Um, I guess I can take that one. Um, and
Okay.
then
Um, so you're gonna do number two.
yeah, I can do
Okay.
like
All right. Well, I'll
two.
do the advocate for the innocent bystander, which
Okay.
the bystander that was the one that's like where it's like they push you off the bridge, right?
Yeah, so your role is to make an argument for why it's wrong to push the person into the path of the train. Um, but it says you can take either the utilitarian or non-utilitarian stance. So like maybe we can like because mine's utilitarian, so maybe we can like kind of go together and agree, but then like at some or wait, maybe we can like disagree on it for a little bit because you can like do either. So like we can cover the different ones because like one person might say like it's wrong to even like I feel like if you're like the Kant view, you would think it's wrong to do anything and get involved in it because that'll be on you, right? Would that I guess we'll t talk about that after, but
I think that would be the economy. But
yeah.
yeah, and then for the non-utilitarian, uh, I guess we can kind of just talk about like the different views on the trolley problem and how both of the how both of them like relate and how they disagree, I guess.
Yeah, because it's kind of like just depends because with the different options it's like saying like, obviously like there's like two options where the person can get involved to change the path of what's happening, but
Mhm.
like one is considered wrong by some people and the other is considered morally. So like it's like I guess we can yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so you'll do team number 3 and then team number 4 and 5 use either the Kantian or virtue ethics approach to comment on the debate between the um thoughts and the bystander's advocate. Um Okay, so I guess so with mine being this whatever staunch like utilitarian, mine is obviously like utilitarianism is like you want to bring the most happiness out of it. So like I'm trying to think. So like for for like my debate, I mean I could be like it doesn't like at the end of the day like saving 5 lives, so whatever method you need to like use. But like
Uh-huh.
I'm just trying to think. Use either. But then the last one on, so how do we want to split that up? Because you're kind of touching on both, right? As number 3.
Yeah, I can just kind of talk about how like Kant would most likely like stay out of it, and how like a utilitarianism view would just be like, let's think about the consequences and do what's mostly moral.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I can kind of like explain a little bit about that. So
Okay. And then
and for 4 and 5, um, okay, the bystander's advocate. So I can kind of like advocate for the bystander and how he shouldn't be a part of it because he had nothing to do with the train accident or anything.
hmm
So I'll talk about.
yeah, so approach ease either on the debate between staunch and utilitarianism. So maybe like for 4 and 5, because it's like this one's basically like use the Kantian virtue ethics approach to comment
Huh.
on what we're already debating. So maybe we can like talk through it together because obviously it's like typically this is like a separate person coming in, but maybe with us we can like
Yeah.
talk about like working that theory into it, or like I can always stick with the utilitarianism approach. Um, but I'm sure we can just talk through it and see.
Honestly, since we only have two people, we could kind of just like all like comment on each thing. I think that would be good too. Like we can
Yeah,
just kind of talk through it. The other group member like has no involved with us,
yeah,
not involved. So I think we can do that too. I think
yeah,
the
we can.
professor would be okay with that.
I think it'd be okay if we kind of just, like you said, just talk through it, like from the different perspectives too, and like because maybe that'll allow us to like, I don't know, think differently on it. But yeah, I say we just kind of talk through it. Let me look through the script thing real quick. Um,
Okay.
it says the moderator begins and provides an introduction to the trolley problem. Put this in your own words and do not rely too much on the video's description. Be sure to state the fundamental question of the trolley problem again in your own words. So I'll actually do that before we start the discussion, and I'll just give a like quick rundown of the problem and stuff. Um, and taking turns, each team member should introduce their role position. Okay, so I guess we'll just do that start. So I'll just say like I'm the, is it staunch utilitarianism or a utilitarian?
Uh, I
Staunch.
don't know. I don't honestly. Yeah, I guess it's staunch, but I
Okay.
mean, I guess we don't. If I guess you can be like the moderator or whatever, but like I guess we can all just kind of talk through it. I think that would be the
Okay.
easiest thing
Okay.
for us to do.
Okay. And then the moderator then attempts to identify or isolate a point of debate and invites team members. So I'll just introduce it and then I'll say we're going to just start talking about the different perspectives, blah blah blah. Um, each team member should conclude with a brief statement about why their general approach to ethics or moral questioning is plausible and reasonable. So I guess that'll just be we'll argue up to the point and be like, so this makes sense because blah blah blah. Um, and then all team members are involved and appear on screen at the same time in the recorded Zoom call. All team members participate in the brainstorming session and make a good effort to accurately represent. The moderator begins the mock debate with an intro, using the screen share feature in Zoom to help focus the discussion and move the points of the basic script is highly recommended. Okay, so I can I can copy and paste the basic script onto a Google Doc and then I can just share my
Okay.
screen during the discussion just so we can keep it in front of us, just so we can make sure we're on
All right.
of it. And then each team member provides a position statement. We already talked about that. The moderator ends the mock debate with an outro, so I'll just say that before we finish the debate and just like conclude it. Um, have fun, and then upload to YouTube, and then it just says stay roughly within the 20 to 30 minute time frame. So I guess once we start talking, we'll just keep a track on time. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Also, it says have fun experimenting with different viewpoints in a
Oh,
low stakes environment. So,
perfect.
um, I don't think it has to be too serious. I think it's more of just us
Yeah,
communicating and talking about our different takes on it.
I think so too. Okay. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and get started. So just an overview of the trolley problem that we're going to be discussing is just that there's a situation where there's a trolley or train on the track and there are five people that are in the way. However, you personally have the option of pulling a lever that could um, like change the track or course of the trolley to only hit one person versus the five. So you could change the course of the track, or instead, you could push someone off of the bridge onto the train tracks, and that would be stopping the train or stopping the train and not hitting the one person or the five people. But that would all of these would result in fatalities, whichever one you choose. So it would be five, one, and one based on what you choose. So we're just going to debate the different perspectives between Kant, utilitarianism, and just go through that. But um, I feel like the first line of thing is just talking about the I guess, the different perspectives on it. Do you want to go first?
Oh yeah. So one take that we can get from it is the utilitarianism view from it. Basically, utilitarianism is just kind of like a theory that states that everything has a consequence, whether it's right or wrong, and you should think about the consequence as a person, like before um, like committing the action. So with this problem, it kind of relates to like this innocent person that is standing there and he has to think about, should I pull the lever and kill 5 people, or should I pull the lever and kill one person, or I can kill an innocent bystander that has nothing to do with the whole entire situation. So that's kind of the utilitarianism take on it, and
Yeah.
how it relates to the trolley problem.
Well, I think the big thing with that too, with like utilitarianism too, is like ultimately it's like resulting in the most happiness, but I feel like that's also like subjective in a way because like I don't know, in this problem, I guess it's kind of like saying what's the best outcome, but I feel like that could be subjective because I mean, I feel like a lot of people would view a couple lives more than one, but it also goes into saying how do you like value someone's life more than others as well? Because I mean, obviously like I said, like the numbers have something to do with it, but when you say greatest happiness, like especially with like the person who would be pulling it, like how does it affect them as well? Because if they didn't do anything, it's like, is it morally acceptable for them to just do nothing? Which we talked about that, I think in a couple units ago. Do you remember like where it was like the problem where it's like you like obviously like you have an option to get involved and not, even if it's something that's like not involving you, but your
Yeah.
actions could like change the course of events. So is it like morally acceptable or like are you morally obligated to actually do something about it? So I feel like that's
Mm.
also what it's like kind of debating is like the person like that would be by the lever, like they if they didn't do anything, it would hit the 5 people, but that's the course of action and how it was set up. But like would they be morally obligated to do that and turn the course of it over, but then their actions resulted in the other person being killed? So I feel like those are the main 2 points of debate. I mean, I think the third one with pushing a man off of a bridge goes into more the idea of like, yeah, they both would still be one lives, but it's you not physically like you're doing the action to cause the lever to turn, but if you're pushing someone off the bridge, you're like directly
It's
causing
kind of
it
like,
to turn.
yeah, it's kind of like considered murder, because like it's an innocent bystander and you're just pushing someone that has nothing to do with any of the stuff with the train tracks.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's another argument that can say, like the innocent bystander is obviously like out of the option because you're going to murder somebody. You're going to intentionally push somebody off a bridge for no reason instead of trying to save, you know, 5 people. So that's another take on it. So I think that's important to think about too.
Yeah, I mean, especially with utilitarianism, a big thing is like it doesn't really matter how you get to the end result. It's just the fact that like like we talked about, the consequences are what matters. So in that viewpoint, it's just like it I feel like the utilitarianism, they honestly wouldn't necessarily not care, but like as long as it's resulting in the 5 people surviving, it doesn't matter how you get there. So like it's kind of like consequences be damned. Like it's like
Yeah.
or no, not no. Consequences are what matters, but like even if you push someone off, you're still resulting in the most happiness by saving 5 people. So whether you turn the lever or push the person off, as long as those are one of the 2 options you choose, then saving the 5 people would be best, technically in that viewpoint. But I feel like if we're starting to go on to like the Kant's like viewpoint, I feel like it's
Hmm.
like it matters on how you get there. Like even if the consequences it doesn't matter if they're kind of good or bad. It's I think the big viewpoint is like the actions you take to get to them. So I feel like it's like holding the person to a standard, like, is it morally acceptable for you to be getting involved to, change
Yeah.
the course of what happens? I don't know your thoughts on Kant's.
Yeah, it's just basically kind of what you said, just like whatever is going to be the most like perfect thing, I guess, and kind of just it's honestly what I think if from a Kant viewpoint, I think one of the options would honestly just to be to step out of the way and not have anything to do with it. Um, Even though you're gonna kill 5 people,
Hmm.
just because from what Kant, like his theory is kind of like, do everything truthfully, no matter what the outcome is, even if you say you happen to kill 5 people, at least you're telling the truth and you're not causing anything. You're just standing there watching it. So that's kind of what Kant would think about the trolley problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big thing that, at least in the video with like Ponsax, like you said, like with the problem, it's like, if would you be okay if, you lying would cause like I think it goes more into like the rationality behind it. Like
Hmm.
would it's like more like makes people think like look internally to themselves to be like if you do this, could, I don't know, could you live with yourself or like do you think it's morally acceptable to do these,
Yeah,
specific things? Because even if it ends up good, like do you accept the way in which you got there? Or like maybe the way in which you got there was bad and it caused something bad to happen. So that's on you. So like it looks more into like the decisions you make will like even like the decisions are what matters. It feels like that's a big viewpoint of it. Um,
I also think that like Kant's viewpoints are kind of like even if you are using one person to save 5, it's still going to be morally wrong.
mhm.
And like it's like that inner feeling, like what you talked about, versus pulling the lever, not pulling the lever. So that's another reason, like another
Yeah.
viewpoint from what Kant thinks.
And one thing with the video that was interesting, I think, was like they the video is talking about how it's ironic to like, and I know we kind of talked about this or like discussed part of it, but like with pushing either, pushing the person off the bridge or being the person to pull the lever, most people would feel it would be morally acceptable to pull the lever and allow it to hit one person instead of five, but people couldn't justify pushing the one person off because
Yeah,
it just, I think that's also goes into like a deeper discussion of like, you with the lever, it's like, okay, I'm just changing the course of what is already happening. But I feel like with pushing someone off, like you're directly pulling something else. I don't know. I feel like that's just it's interesting that that's like you're getting involved in both, but I think in a way one feels more direct than another, like directly pushing someone off to land on a train track. It's like you're fully sacrificing them, but another one you're doing an action that causes something else to do the harm. Whereas like I think in
yeah,
one area like you're actually causing it and like I feel like
yeah,
that,
and like
you know.
if the trolley problem was in like today's world, honest, probably or most likely you would get charged with murder if you push somebody off the bridge.
Yeah.
But maybe you could argue with like the pulling the lever is kind of like I was trying to save people. Um, Instead of killing 5 people, I pulled the lever to maybe kill one on accident or trying to save um, more people, may save more lives. So that's like another argument or viewpoint of it is like in today's world, what would something like that, how would that like evolve like in a trial or a, like murder case like that? It's kind of like obviously if you push somebody off a bridge, you're going to jail and you're going to end up in prison. But if it's the lever, it's kind of like, what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
that's another thing to think about.
That's that's a good point, especially because I feel like with I feel like you were saying with today, like it's also like there's other factors that go into the way people think because like you said, if someone pushed someone off today, people would just automatically be like, "Oh my gosh, they someone pushed someone in front of a train like they murdered them." But if someone had changed the course with the lever, I feel like more people would be like at least grateful that it was one instead of five. I mean, regardless, it's any option results in a fatality. So there's no like, there's no option that's good. It's just an option that's the least bad, it feels like. But I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of other factors of morality and like one thing that we just like that we watched in the videos that I saw was also looking into the golden mean and it looked into like virtuousness. So like it looked at like the actions that you think to take kind of depend sometimes on like your moral education, like your upbringing, like how you are raised has a very big, you know, impact and factor on like how you respond to certain scenarios because it's what you're used to. So like also like, you know, when we were doing like the other topics in the textbook, like they were looking at like also like I don't know how to pronounce it right, like relativism. So it's like looking at like everyone's stance on like morality can be different, especially like cultural relativism. Like sometimes
Yeah, I
like
think,
there's no right or wrong. Everyone just has their different you know,
yeah, I do remember that where it was talking about like, even though you're raised in a certain culture, someone else that lives on the other side of the world that was brought up 100 times different than you were, it's not really like nobody has a right or wrong moral upbringing. It's just kind of like how you're up, how are you brought up, how's your family raised you, like how does the other people around you influence you, like even like honestly like the government and like your leaders can influence the way people are brought up too, like whether you're like in a dictatorship, you're a communist, or like anything, like not to try to get off topic, but I just think
no.
that's one important thing to think about too, like when you're thinking about this. um it's one thing to take into consideration for sure.
Well, I think a big thing too is like it's hard to define a right and wrong. And it was like funny with reading the textbook because it's like there's things that in our mind, most people's minds, you know, is like, okay, yeah, that's wrong. Like everyone knows that. But like at the same time, like who can say whether something is like, you know, right or wrong because everyone has different stances on morality. Like, yeah, everyone thinks murder is wrong, but like I think with the cultural relativism too is like they were looking at other cultures that had like I this is a really weird like jump, but there was a comparison from like I don't know when I think it was like the Aztecs or something, and they did like I don't know like
The
they would do like
sacrificing thing.
yeah, ritual sacrifices, and then um I think it was like the Spaniards that came in and conquered them because that's like because they had two different beliefs. So like they didn't believe in the
Yeah.
sacrificing, they conquered them, but at the same time it's like was it morally acceptable for them to do that? That was their they believed based on their culture like that the sacrifices are what you know needed to be made, like that was just based on their beliefs, not saying that that's right like right at all, but at the same time like it's finding that fine line of like how can we say what's right and wrong when like there are different views of morality and like even though that comparison's like totally different than like today's like especially with the train problem like at the end of the day, there has to be like a choice that's made, whether they, change the lever, they push someone off, or they do
Yeah,
nothing. Like even them doing nothing is a choice that they make because they actively saw the situation happening. So still morally, like that is a choice that they have to make to not do anything about it. So like even though they're not involved, like that's still a choice and that's like a factor that they have to take into account that can be like through the other ones too, you know?
yeah. I think one thing, like, I don't want to like assume anything, but I think um, like most of the way people are brought up in the United States would probably be to pull the lever. I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think that's one of like the kind of like upbringings a lot of people have, in America. It's kind of like, saving lives and trying to help others out. I think that's one like kind of moral thing that a lot of Americans have, um, just based on, people's upbringing and how things are in America versus, maybe how things are in, a country across the world. So
Yeah.
for me, that's what I would do. But like I said, people can have different options and there's no technically right or wrong answer.
Well, I mean, yeah. And that's the thing. I feel like most people like would make that decision, but then it's like I wonder who has like I don't know, like a stance that would be different based on their like moral ideas because I feel like a second big answer might be to not do anything because that means you're
Yeah.
like not involved in it and like it's not like your fault. But I feel like another more like what we were talking about, like another moral thing is like, is it wrong for you to see something that's wrong or whatever and to not get involved and do it? Like some people think like, not like that doesn't involve me, so that's not my obligation to get involved in it. But there are some
Yeah,
more considerations like that, you know?
I think there's a lot of, people's viewpoints. Even I can have that viewpoint sometimes depending on some things. Like, let's say you see a fight at school and your thoughts are like, should I go break it up or should I just keep going because it's not anything that I'm involved in. It's not my business. So should I go and try to break up the fight and maybe, get caught into the fight and then I start beating someone up or I get beat up. So I guess, that is another thing to look at. How a lot of people are raised too. Like some people can just be like, I'm not getting involved with it. Like I have nothing to do with it. I think the best thing is just for me to stay out. So that is another good point, what you just said.
Hmm. Yeah. Quick question. With my screen, do you see like this main page with my like the moderator and this
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can see it.
But if I like slide over, can you see another screen or can you still see the same one?
I just see the same one, the basic script.
Okay. I just want to make sure that it's like staying there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the only thing that I've like seen is like it is very subjective. And I mean, it's interesting seeing the different viewpoints because like I think the big similarity is obviously like they both kind of view things as like, obviously the actions you take like have to be under moral consideration. Like there's a lot of different factors to take into account, but I feel like Kantiism and utilitarianism, like they're kind of like covering the opposite areas. Like one's more worried about the start than the finish, and another doesn't really care how you get to the end. So like
Yeah.
they're they both like obviously acknowledge that like there has to be steps to get to like your decision, but like I don't know. I feel like that was a big thing and like I mean another thing we talked about too, pull it up, but the it was the what was it? The I think it was like the virtuism or like I think it was like a video with like Aristotle and it was covering like the flourishing idea and like it was like covering how
Mhm.
like you live your life fully, like, but it's not based on like specific actions. It's like based on like the result of like the successful life lived well. So like I feel like that was another topic too that like they just said live virtuously, but I don't know, I feel like that could also be like when they say virtuously, like how is that interpreted for this one? Like,
I think I think that maybe the flourishing thing could kind of tie into utilitarianism because like the flourishing thing, talks about like you said, like your like virtue and like your purpose in life and like what you like. And like with the con or not with the con with the utilitarianism view, it kind of thinks about, like whatever makes you happy and like whatever consequences you think are going to be good, that's what you should go with. So I think that can kind of tie into the utilitarianism view and like the flourishing thing. I think it kind of agrees with utilitarianism.
yeah. Um, yeah, and then they talked about, I think they also, that was the part where they talked on it was called, I think, Nicomachean ethics. And that was
Uh,
still like the virtue topic. It was like they were talking about the cultivating virtues, which is what I was saying about like so it said in the video that virtue is the disposition to behave in certain ways that lie in between extremes. So like one of the examples they gave was like cowardness versus like recklessness. So like those are the two extremes. Like when you're cowardice, like you're not you're not being like courageous or strong, like you're kind of like backing down from a difficult situation, I guess, whereas like recklessness, obviously, like you're not thinking about what you're doing and you're taking steps, like, and it's
yeah.
just like an extreme level, but like there's that in between with virtues, I think that was the side with the virtues. So like it's how you behave within those. So like I feel like honestly that could also relate with the problem too. Like, is it like
Mhm.
is it like, I don't know, cowardice for the
Yeah.
person to back away and not do anything about it? Like that would be
Mhm.
the cowardice side. It's like finding the in between, and then like recklessness, like that could also be the person, I don't know, pushing someone over like onto the
Or,
tracks. Like
yeah. Or
so
just letting the train go and hit five people. So that could be
yeah.
kind of like both sides depending on how you view it.
Yeah, like I mean, I feel like that's why we were saying most people would pick the one option is just because I mean, it seems like the middle, it's like an in between for like virtues because you're not doing nothing about it, but at the same time, you're not, I don't know, taking a drastic step to get there. But I mean,
Uh,
you're still getting involved. I don't know. I feel like that can kind of tie into the virtue topic, but that was kind of a jump in comparison, but I honestly thought that kind of related to the problem, but
yeah.
I don't know.
But
Those
yeah,
people just
but
need to
like
get
we
off the
said,
tracks.
yeah, really, the train needs to just come to a stop. But yeah, I think we've talked about enough. Honestly, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up
Yeah,
because he said he wants to stay within the 30-minute time zone. And I think we've been talking for the past 20
yeah,
25 minutes now.
yeah. So let's see. So we introed, we represented a role and position. Um, well, let's just quickly end. I'll just end with the like utilitarianism, like just approach. So just ultimately based on you like the utilitarianism view, it would be plausible for the person to redirect the train to hit one person because ultimately utilitarianism is where you want to bring the greatest happiness for the most people you can, and saving five over one would be the path they would take because it doesn't matter the actions you take to get there as long as the consequence is good and again results in the greatest happiness. So that in that view, you'd believe like that that would be the best course of action. If you want to just briefly state the Kantianism one more time.
Yeah, for
Ah,
Kant, I think the main point of view is kind of just like backing off from the whole thing and kind of staying out of it. Um, I think like how Kant follows the categorical imperative about like people should act like in a universal type law, and everybody should be the same, like tell the truth, do everything right. So I think that's kind of like one of the main viewpoints from Kant's theory about the whole trolley problem.
yeah. So just to conclude our discussion, ultimately with debating the trolley problem with the three different or the three different options, well, yeah, three. Ultimately there's different views on morality. I feel like what we discussed is that everyone's going to have a different perspective, especially when we were looking at utilitarianism and Kant, and just the different viewpoints on that side is that people are going to view the different stages like we said before, like start and end. Some people care more about the consequences, some people care more about the way in which you get there. So ultimately it's kind of up based on moral perception, and it's up to the person, but there's always going to be different perspectives, but I think what's best is to debate the just the different morality sides of it, and for the trolley problem. But do you have anything else to add, or you think we're good?
I think we did a pretty good job, honestly. I think we can go
Awesome.
and start the recording.
Mm.